And that's where we start off with the containers. What does Google say about containers? Containers offer a logical packing mechanism in which applications can be abstracted from the environment in which they actually run. I know this doesn't make much sense here. We will break it down. But before that, I want to tell you that containers are based on process isolation, and because of which we can run multiple applications on a single host. Obviously, by taking the help of the isolation provided through namespaces and resource control. Don't worry, we will talk more about this in a bit. But this concept of process isolation that I said just now is also not new. This also started with the Unix v7 when chroot system call was introduced back in 1972. My father was in high school back then. And it was in 2013 that Docker was launched after a few hiccups, and containers boomed and exploded and everyone went crazy. So when it comes to a container, we have the hardware, the host operating system that sits on the top of the hardware, like Windows or Linux. And then we have the container engine on top of which you can run multiple applications in isolation. That's it. That's where actually Docker comes in. And don't worry, this is not the only thing we will discuss. So chill, we will dig deep into this as well. This is just the introduction. Now let's bring up the virtual machine environment. Look at these two images carefully and try and find the things that make you feel it's different or make you feel the containers are different. I know what you might be thinking, but more or less. The first thing that you might feel that we only have the applications. What about the operating systems? The second one that you might feel is instead of the hypervisors, we have the container engine here. Thirdly, no hypervisor in the containers. How is the resource allocation working then? Fourth one, where is the virtual machine? How will we install the guest operating system? And most importantly, you might ask yourself, so does it mean that Docker is the hypervisor? You might be thinking, okay, the containers might be the hypervisor. And the answer is no and no. When you see this image, it gives you the impression that the container engine is the perfect replacement for the hypervisor. And that is why it creates confusion. So let's change things here and let's see what it actually looks like. Let's remove the container engine and the application containers. And let's switch things around. So don't get confused here. It is simple. You need to keep in mind that the application that you have here are not running on top of the container engine. You need to understand the binary files and the library files actually make use of the same kernel to execute the instruction. And the same reason why I just said the engine provides you the so-called namespace, but the actual execution happens in the underlying OS and its kernel. And the daemon or the Docker daemon that you have here is just to provide the application that you have the proper process isolation it needs from other applications, of course. So you might ask me if this is interpreting the instructions using the same kernel from the underlying OS. Yeah, if we are using Linux as a host, then it is fine. But how is it possible that Linux containers are able to run on Windows operating system? That's a very valid question. And I know you will be asking this question, and that's what I asked myself as well. And hence I reached a point where I realized there is a lot more to Docker on Windows than you actually think. Wait for that for a bit longer. Let's understand some things which are very important before that. That is abstraction. So what is abstraction? When you go to the ATM to get the cash, you enter your PIN and you enter the amount that you need and you draw the cash. That's it. You're not bothered about how that ATM machine works, and you don't need to know that as well, isn't it? Other than how to use the ATM itself. That's called abstraction, hiding the unwanted details and just showing you the required information that you need. When it comes to the hypervisors, you actually abstract the actual physical hardware from the virtual machines that you have, as we discussed right now. And when it comes to the containers, what do we abstract here? Oh yes, you abstract the operating system itself. And this point is something that you need to understand very, very carefully. You are abstracting the operating system itself. And you may agree to disagree with me here on this point, but we will discuss on why this is the case.